Nothing like a fridge bashing to stop some sound. The third book I read in December was Nujeen by Nujeen Mustafa and Christina Lamb. You may have heard of Christina Lamb. She's one of the main foreign correspondents who's been working on writing about the Syrian crisis and the refugee crisis over the past 4 or 5 years. She also co-authored I Am Malala, which I know was widely read everywhere and also on BookTube, obviously. She now is co-authoring with a young woman named Nujeen Mustafa, who has cerebral palsy, is now 16 and living in Germany, but she made her way from Syria in 2014 and 2015 in her steel wheelchair, pushed by her sister Nazreen, and is now settled in Germany. This book was interesting to me for so many different reasons. I came back in September one night to London and saw it on my bed, and my dad had bought it for me, having seen it in a bookstore. He sometimes does that. He just sees books that he thinks I would enjoy, drops them on my bed, and waits for my review. So there you go. This book for me is very interesting, A, because it's one of the few books that I have read about my own condition, cerebral palsy, someone else with cerebral palsy, and B, a book about what is going on right now in Syria, people who are being displaced, who have to go through perilous, grievous journeys to get to Europe and to all of the luxuries that we enjoy every single day. I've been meaning to read more non-fiction about what's going on in Syria, because I just think that as much as you can read on the BBC, as much as you can watch on the news, the only thing that is gonna change this conversation in any meaningful way is the humanization of this big word that has become so weighted down with so many symbolic meanings. Refugees. Who are the actual people who are leaving their countries to find new homes in Europe? Why are they doing that? Do they want to leave their homes? Is this coming from a place of desire, or is this coming from a place of being forced out of your home because it's in a war-torn place where you're in danger? What do you have to gain in Europe, and why is it important for us in Europe, in America, everywhere, to open our arms to these people and make a home that is safe and warm and happy for them before they may be able one day to return to their countries? The only way that we can understand that in any real way is to know the faces, know the names, know the voices of the people behind the news reports.
أتذكر كل شيء قاد أجمل وأحسن، بس بعد شغلة شهر يعني صار الحروب فوقنا، وتعرفين الحال صار مو زين قاد، وانقطع الأكل عنا وصار البرد. فجينا لهين احنا قاد من الحروب فوقنا، جينا اللي جاي هين ما في لا ضرب ولا حروب خالص شيء.
You know you have the power to change, and if you do change things for the better, you will be rewarded. So try to do your best, because you have the power to do it.
ناوين يروز وعمرين ده وأمهاتن لاجئي السوري اللي كان بعضهميس يعني زين كيف عم الشطرنج يقول لك يرتي لأنه اللعبة أذكياء أو عقلي ما تشغلينه ويقول لك كي خوشة أفع بيمنو أفريمنو أفخيمي ما يفهم دجنجة بافيمو ومتكامل وأبيمو فانا معاقن يعني خيمة جوان تشينابي نخارجي هي أجبوبا إما أفش صعب ترى.
And so in that way, I think this book was a very important one for me to read. Nujeen writes as a 16-year-old girl. She tells us all about what her life was as Aleppo started to become violent and dangerous. She has a disability, so she wasn't able to go to school in Aleppo, and she spent a lot of time watching English television with subtitles to try and teach herself English and to pass the time, because she couldn't do much. It's not a very nice place to be disabled. And it also tells of her journey all the way to Europe, being pushed in these expanses of desert or rubbly ground. She ended up very bruised. The sides of her body was bashing against her wheelchair. How did they get her wheelchair on the ferry that is going to take them across the border to Europe? All of these things that aren't very widely discussed in their minutiae, I think, on the news. And one of the interesting things too about this book was not only was it humanizing and giving voice to a refugee, it was humanizing, giving voice to a disabled refugee. And I think that's going to be rare. Few and far between are the voices of disabled people in general in the media, let alone surrounding the refugee crisis. So what does it mean to be a refugee when you're disabled and when you can't swing your leg over the side of the boat, when you can't run away when you're in danger, when you can't do all of those things? What does it mean to have your personal physical freedoms taken away from you, as well as the general freedoms that are taken away from people coming from Syria? I think this is the perfect book to read if you don't know a lot about the Syrian refugee crisis, if you don't know a lot about what it is that they are running away from, why it is that they have to leave their countries, and what their journeys entail when they do come across from Europe. It's hard to know with these co-authored books how much of it is actually Nujeen's voice. I would love to hear her talk more, maybe on TV or in interviews, just to see how much of her is really coming through in the book. It was interesting to me, she had some of the same medical procedures as I've had as a child, but obviously in Syria, that is a very different thing than the amazing treatment I got on the English NHS. That certainly put a lot in perspective for me. And also, it was interesting for me to read about what her life now is looking like in Germany as a disabled refugee and having a better life, but still a life as a disabled person. She still has hope that one day she'll be able to get out of her wheelchair with better medical care than she's received all her life, for example, even though the people in Germany seem to think that that will not be the case. I think it's a political book. It's a touching book. I think this book should pass many hands and be read by many, just so that you can open your heart more, I guess, to the idea of these people. I know that most people in my generation and around my friendship groups are incredibly open to the idea of refugees, but still, in a lot of cases, that's almost a metaphorical acceptance without a real understanding of the minds and senses of humor and feelings that are associated with all of these people. One of the things about Nujeen is that she does have a really incredible sense of humor. She's a big fan of Days of Our Lives, which is the program that taught her English, and she makes a lot of jokes about that show and about things that would otherwise also be very scary to us. Her journey, bits of her journey that were very scary, that she survived through humor and through compassion with her sister and, thinking about all the things she would do once she got to Europe. So I think overall a book that should be read by many, especially if you're not very well versed on the Syrian crisis, and also an interesting look into cerebral palsy if you're not aware of that condition too. I feel like that face is like gonna be my trademark. And the last 2 books that I read in December were books that I've mentioned in, I think, multiple videos at this point. So I won't speak very long about them, but they are a short story collection called Children of the New World by Alexander Weinstein and Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel, that I feel like I mention this in every single one of my videos now. The short story collection is a collection of stories about the role of technology in the future and the role of virtual reality and the role of robots and how human relationships withstand all of those things. As I said in my previous video, it's very akin to Black Mirror. It's a sort of humorous take on what might happen in a future where technology takes over more than it does now, how our Amazon Echoes might turn into our best friends, for example. I thought it was a really great short story collection. I am not sure myself about short story collections yet, and I kind of, as I said before, I read it all in one go, and I don't think that was the right way to do things. I should probably have taken a breather before all the stories. I thought it was equal parts scary in terms of what might happen in the not so far distant future, I think, in terms of technology, and also a reminder of the importance of us humans behind that technology and the kind of impact we have on it and how far we allow it to take over. Yeah, I thought it was a good fun look at all of those things. But there are some stories that have stayed in my head, particularly about the impact of technology on romantic relationships and how that might distance us from our lovers, our husbands, our wives, and notably, I guess, make two-timing and cheating easier, and how that might change the discussion surrounding those things in our society. So yeah, made me scared, made me laugh. It was pretty good. And then Station 11, I've told you all about this a bunch of times, but it's a post-apocalyptic novel that tells of the fates of a civilization that has been mostly wiped out by a flu pandemic and the sorts of things that happen after the end of the world. Not the kind of book that I otherwise would have picked up, but I really absolutely loved it. I thought it was a great yarn, a great story, didn't miss a beat, was funny, touching, the characters were great, some really amazing intertextual references, great Shakespeare, other works of literature. If you're a graphic novel fan, I'm sure that you would like to write Station 11, which is the name of the graphic novel series featured prominently in the novel. I hope that no one's written the screenplay to the film, because I really want to do that. I'm going to start working on it pretty soon, so maybe I'll keep you updated on my progress with that. I hope no one's going to steal my idea now. But hey, no one write the screenplay to Station 11, because I'm going to do it. Definitely going to pick up more Emily St. John Mandel. And if you want me talking a little bit more about it, you can go to 2 videos back. And yeah, I speak about how much I enjoyed it there. Thank you so much for sitting with me. Hopefully you had a hot beverage of your own and you enjoyed hearing about these books. Let me know if there's anything that you had heard of or read or hadn't heard of and want to pick up. I'm really excited for what this channel is going to bring us in 2017. And yeah, you can expect a lot more from me. I will see you back in London. Surprise, I have a special guest coming to the channel really soon, so that's exciting. Some of you might recognize her. I'm super excited for filming our videos, and I will see you super soon. Happy reading!